I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and this rather luscious looking saloon is the Audi A7. Now, we have driven an A7 together in the recent past on this car's launch in Queensland, but that was pretty brief, only had a short time with the car. Now I've been living with it for quite a while, and I reckon I'm in a position to let you know whether this is the car that you should be buying if you're after a pretty indulgent executive express, which is what this second generation A7 is. This is the flagship sort of passenger car Audi if you want to drive yourself. They do of course have the A8, but I find that's a car that really you kind of want to be driven in the back of, whereas the A7 is definitely a car that you own yourself, you drive yourself, and it has the looks to match, because I reckon this is one of the coolest looking vehicles on the road. It is a hatchback back there, hence that really long sloping roofline. It's kind of got coupe-like proportions, but you know, it's a pretty spacious four-door, and it's massive. So massive, in fact, that it didn't actually fit in my garage. So you'll need to check yours before buying this behemoth of a thing. But beneath these awesome looks, does the A7 have what it takes to justify its six-figure price and also prove itself as the vehicle to buy in this hotly contested space, along with cars like the Mercedes-Benz CLS and the BMW 6 Series Grand Coupe? Well, things start pretty well inside, as the A7 has an upmarket interior with plenty of premium finishes. It also adopts Audi's new interior design language, and I think that we should start by having a bit of a discussion about that, because there's good things and bad things about the way the A7 and the A8 and the Q8, those are the Audis that have adopted the new cabin language, how their interior works. So, you know, first of all, it does look new. It looks very fresh. There's two large touchscreens here in the center. There's this long strip of piano black. There's really nice finishings above and beneath it in metal in this particular car. But it represents a big change in the way that you work inside an Audi. There used to be a rotary MMI dial down here, as you might remember, and a screen up here in your line of sight. That's all gone. Now these screens are actually kind of located down here. So I find that, you know, if you're inputting some stuff into the navigation and you're writing on the pad down here, your eyes are firmly off the road. And I reckon that's a slight regression on the way that things used to be. But let me know down in the comments whether you like this new twin MMI system here, or whether you preferred the old version. But what hasn't changed is this fantastic virtual cockpit ahead of the driver, beautifully crisp, high resolution, high refresh rate screen that you can do virtually everything on. Your navigation, your media, your trip computer functions, it's all there. Great steering wheel. The diameter might be a little bit big for me, but it feels awesome. Lovely perforated section. Flat bottom, not to everybody's tastes, but I do like the metal finishes on the back of the paddle shifters. That feels pretty expensive. The seats feel expensive too. We've got beautiful leather on these ones here. Audi's standard high-grade leather now, even on the base A7. They got 12 ways of adjustment and heating in this car, but no ventilation, which is a bit of a problem in a hot country like Australia. But they are very supportive, finished in black leather here, but you can get more interesting colors if you so choose. We got aluminium in this car, you can get woods, etc. There's plenty of customization inside. One thing, however, I'm not particularly fond of is the finishes up here on the dashboard and on the doors. They actually are premium, they just look fake. The grain is sort of too consistent, and the stitching it looks machined, you know, like it doesn't feel luxurious enough for a vehicle of this price. The A8, you can option up, you know, really nice real leather on top of the dash. I really think that's something that the A7 should have had as well. The other problem is practicality, because this is a massive car. It's really wide, it's really long, but here in the front, we've got two small cup holders. We've got a very, very shallow bin there, and we've got pretty narrow door bins as well. There's just not enough space to put stuff in this big car. But what about in the back? Let's find out. What I'll also mention, while I remember, is the rather strange doors on the Audi A7. Because what they've got is they have a system that can detect a cyclist coming up alongside the car, and if there's a cyclist there, there's an electrical system that just won't allow the door to be opened. But because that means a signal has to be transmitted every time you sort of direct the door to open, there's actually a slight delay. Like if I pull this, have to do it twice actually to open the door there. It's just a little bit disconcerting. I'm sure the second generation of that system will be a bit quicker. But what about here in the back for space? It's not bad actually. I'm 6 foot, got another inch of headroom, got plenty of leg room, and toe room is a little bit constrained with this seat in my driving position. But no biggie, you could easily fit 2 adults back here without a problem, and that's kind of what this 4-seater car really needs to do. We do have a 5th seat here, but I mean, bloody hell, look how tall this lump is in the floor. So really you'll be using this seat for an armrest. We've got 2 cup holders there. We got a sort of shallow space here, 2 USB ports down here, and we've also got our own 2 climate zones here in the back because of the Premium Plus package on this car, which is nice. Soft surfaces back here, aluminium, it all feels suitably premium. What about the boot? If I can get out of the car, there we go. Let's head around the back. Oh my goodness, I mean, we have this really expressive looking back end on the A7. I really like it. Not sure it works quite as well as the first generation of the car though. Let me know down below in the comments whether you like the first A7 or if this second gen car is the one that pushes your buttons. What we do is we open up the hatch, and you can see the Chasing Cars suitcases have rolled around a little bit, and the reason they've done so is because there is simply so much space back there. Obviously, when you have a lift back, you don't have that diagonal space like a wagon. What you do have is length. So, you know, if I take the big Chasing Cars suitcase out so you can see, you know, the small one, there's just so much space to slide it around. We've also got a few special features. We've got netting to stop delicate things from creating a racket. We've got a dedicated compartment over there on the left. And we also have, what else have we got? We've got a 12-volt socket. We can't actually fold down those seats remotely from the boot, which is a bit weird. But when you do, they fold flat and you have a very, very long space in the boot. There's also not too much of a load lip. Plus we got some aluminium plating there so that you won't scratch the car. And all in all, it's a pretty practical way to drive a passenger car without having to step up to an SUV, and that's something I quite like. So what is the Audi A7 like to drive, and what's it like to drive in a range of scenarios? Because last time we were together in this car, we were sort of carving up some sporty-ish roads outside Brisbane, but that was about it. Now I've had a chance to press this car into service throughout everything I do, which is a range of country driving, city driving, running errands, etc. And I think that's what the ordinary person who owns an Audi A7 is going to do. It's the kind of car you drive to work Monday to Friday, and you might find a good road with it on the weekend. And the good news is that it's very competent across that range of disciplines. That starts with the powertrain because, you know, interestingly to me, the A7 really has all the power that you would need, and I question whether or not you'd even need to upgrade to an S or an RS7 when they arrive for this generation, because here in Australia, there's 2 engines offered on the A7, 2 V6s, a petrol and a diesel. The only one you can get right now is the petrol. It's called the 55 TFSI. That's using Audi's new engine naming system, which I know a lot of people are unhappy about, but I actually think it makes decent sense. It's a 250 kilowatt, 500 newton meter turbocharged V6 petrol, and it's pretty powerful and pretty torquey. It's connected to a 48 volt electrical system as well, so you actually feel the benefit of that system where you're getting a little tiny EQ or EV sort of boost when you hit the gas. Which means that it really does shoot off the line very nicely, and in particular mid-range acceleration is really nice with this 250 kilowatt engine. And it does the 0 to 100 sprint in 5.3 seconds, so you're certainly not looking for all this additional performance. It's pretty clean and pretty quick. Audi say it'll do 7.3 litres per 100 Ks, and I've found that to be pretty unrealistic. In highway driving, I found it gets maybe 7.5, but combined, it's around 11 or 12. And, at the end of the day, this is a pretty big, pretty heavy sedan with a powerful petrol engine, so it's never going to be super frugal. For those who are looking for a more economical option in the A7, The 50 TDI is a 210 kilowatt V6 diesel. It's a torque monster, that engine as well, so if you don't mind driving an oil burner, then that's a good option to go for. Now, the 55 TFSI certainly goes like a sporty engine, though it doesn't sound like a sporty engine. It definitely isn't tuned to sort of sound tasty or anything like that. In fact, you very rarely hear the engine or the exhaust. It's extremely refined, and a lot of people are going to like that. But if you're looking for an engine with, you know, more character and a bigger sound, then you'll need to wait for the S7, which is going to use a 2.9 litre V6, the same as in the RS4, or the RS7, which at best guess that'll use the new 4 litre V8 that has been deployed in a range of Audi and Porsche product, and they're going to sound definitely more impressive. Another thing that I'm into when it comes to the A7 is the chassis. It's a very, very nice balanced car. It offers up athletic handling, good ride quality, you know, a really nice balance between comfort for commuting and a willingness to drive pretty sportily when you find a good road. But what you definitely want to do is tick the air suspension. Now, you can either get that as an a la carte option on 20-inch wheels, which is the base wheel, or by ticking the Premium Plus package, and that upgrades the wheels to 21 inches, which is massive for a passenger car, and it also includes the air suspension. Now, riding on air really does change the way the A7 drives. I've driven it on its standard steel springs as well, and it's a little bit harsh if you don't get air suspension, but on air, it can be really whatever you want it to be. I've driven it in its balanced setting mostly throughout the week, and I found that is actually a very nice halfway house where body control is good, but it doesn't let too many bumps through to the cabin. Now, you can stiffen it up by putting it into the sport mode, and that works really nicely to keep the body very flat while cornering, but I found it wasn't really necessary to take it out of the balanced selection. The steering too is actually pretty nice. It's pretty fast, pretty direct. There's not a huge amount of steering feel. However, when you are loaded up in a corner, you have pretty good confidence in where the front end of the A7 is going to go, except if there's mid-corner bumps, and that comes down to those 21-inch wheels. Now, they've got a very, very low-profile Pirelli P0 tyre, and when you load it up, you know, the rubber is already stretched to its limit. Then you hit a mid-corner bump, and the front axle just tramps. You know, it just shifts across the road, which isn't great. If this car was on 19s, then you wouldn't really have that problem because it would be able to soak up a bit more of the bump. So, yeah, they really have gone for the big wheel, kind of a bit of style over substance, I think, there. In terms of refinement, there's not a lot of wind noise or environmental noise, but there is a fair bit of road noise from those pretty wide P0 tyres. And the other thing is that there's a lot of creaking sounds. This is the second or third A7 I've driven for, you know, a decent distance, and all of them have had a slightly creaky interior. So make sure you test drive the car and see whether you feel the same effect, because there's a little bit of, you know, the sound of interior components shifting, which is not particularly luxurious, but, you know, it could just be that the press cars are early builds and they've been used and abused by journalists, definitely. So, those are my detailed impressions of the new Audi A7. Look, I like this car. It's got a great powertrain. The handling is nice and balanced. It rides well. It looks fantastic. It's got a sumptuous interior. Those are all the good things. There are definitely one or two quirks because this car is very technologically advanced. As with a lot of Audis, the A7 feels like it's right on the cutting edge of where automotive tech is up to. So a couple of those things take a bit of getting used to, like the electric doors. But if you're into that sort of thing, this car is going to make you very happy. Now, if you haven't subscribed to Chasing Cars, please do so down below. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the new Audi A7 or any special requests for the channel or feedback. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.